top line revenue. So we have gone out to well, first of all, we have Paul Sissel, who's our expert in residence, right? Paul works, he's amazing. Go ahead, give him a round. He's here, Paul somewhere, and Jeff Barr. And so we've been sharing some data back and forth. He has obviously service leadership and the Evolve groups. I've also talked to Dan Tomaszewski and True Methods peer groups, and we kind of collaborated on some of this data. So we're talking about a big data set. We're not just talking about a couple hundred MSPs that we polled. Across the board, on average, the average MSP grew top-line revenue from somewhere between 19 to 23%. That is amazing. That is amazing, right? Check this out. Private equity-backed MSPs grew 76%, and that's a statistic from Service Leadership. Obviously, that's not just organic growth. The first one's going to represent more organic growth. The other one is going to represent private equity-backed. MRR grew 23 to 30% on average for the average MSP. Cloud revenue grew 42%. It's growing faster than MRR, probably with the shutdowns in COVID and remote workplace. Hardware sales, 11%, and EBITDA, this is really exciting, was up from 11 to 19%. Now, you got to think about this. Pre-COVID, the average MSP did somewhere around 8% EBITDA, EBITDA being the net profit after you paid yourself a fair market salary. So, you know, I don't know where you are as far as your numbers, but this is a data set that would probably encompass, I'd say, somewhere around 3,000 MSPs, just to give you an idea of the data that we're sharing here right now. Now, look at this for the Better Your Best, though. This is where it really gets exciting. The Better Your Best, their average top line grew 25%, adding $1.14 million to their business last year. That is incredible growth. Yeah, 29. They added 29 new MRR clients on average. MRR grew 67%, which was $103,000 on average, and EBITDA grew 173%, adding close to just shy of $300,000 in additional EBITDA. That's in addition to what they were already doing. So this is just shows you what's possible. This is just, and the good thing about all of you being here tonight is that you're going to get to see these 5 guys talk about what they did, how they did it, all the campaigns they did. I mean, that in and of itself is worth the trip. So when we look at this and you go, okay, what's driving this growth? Okay, what's driving it? So number one of the biggest drivers right now to revenue, profitability, and MRR is helping clients meet compliance standards. So MSPs using Compliance Manager, which is it's an IT complete product. That's where we found John DePero, who's our expert in residence and compliance. They told me that from last year, from the previous year, they went from 9% of their, 30,000 MSPs using Compliance Manager to now 40%. So think about that growth. And a lot of that is being driven by insurance companies. Now, let's do a quick poll. Don't look at me. I'm not doing anything exciting up here. How many of you have had a client come to you and ask you to help fill out an insurance form or to check something to do with insurance? Look around the room, guys. Now, what that tells you, or it should tell you, is that there's huge opportunity in JV partnerships and going to your clients. Back in the Fall Roadshow, one of the things that we talked about, if you missed it, if you're new, back in the Fall Roadshow, we talked about going to your clients, asking them to introduce you to their insurance professional, whoever sold them a policy, going to that guy, gal, and finding out what they signed and making sure that you're actually delivering what they agreed to do in the policy. And I have members who are doing that, and they're closing tons of deals. Their clients appreciate it. It's a new JV partner. We have those scripts, all that's up on the dashboard. I'm telling you, this is a huge area for growth. Another area is advanced cybersecurity solutions. And this is now, what I'm seeing, more MSPs are now selling this in addition to or separate than your stock standard MSP services. So your standard MSP services have some security solutions baked in, but a lot of MSPs are now selling an advanced cyber protection. They kind of are packaging it, and Will Nobles is here, and we're going to do some sessions on this, where you have your standard MSP services, you have an advanced cyber protection, and then you have compliance. And those are the 3 packages we're now seeing people sell. And the other thing that's really interesting is that a lot of MSPs are now just going in and selling the MSSP part. In other words, like they're doing that through co-managed. In some cases, which is, maybe I'll take another quick poll, we'll look around. Some MSPs are going in and selling a cyber package where there's already an incumbent MSP that can't deliver those security services. I'm just curious, has anyone done that in the room? Okay, so look around. That's like, you know, that's incredible. You never would have seen that 5 years ago, where a company would hire 2 MSPs, right? So think about this. That's how much value is. The other thing is the security assessment is the #1 lead generation offer right now for MSPs. That is getting people in the door. That is the hottest, this is the highest responding offer we have in marketing, and co-managed as well. Show of hands, how many of you are doing co-managed now today? So again, look around the room, look around at a lot of people. Last 12 months, we did a poll, 22% MSP said they saw a considerable increase in co-managed, 37% said they saw some increase in demand. So this is where, if you're sitting here tonight and you're going, well, how do I grow? What do I got to do to grow? You know, these are the areas you got to start looking at. You got to get ready for compliance. You got to start offering advanced security and start maybe looking at co-managed, okay? Now, we did a poll through MSP Success Magazine. The magazine, we have about 45,000 subscribers to the magazine. And on average, we asked them what were the most lucrative MSP clients for you? Still, the 11 to 50 users is by far the most lucrative, is what people are telling us. I think with co-managed growing, we're going to see that go up. I think you're going to start seeing MSP saying that 100 to 200 seat client is their most profitable managed client. Okay, and all right, so let's talk a little bit about pricing trends. So another poll we did with MSP Success Magazine, and just to be clear, MSP Success Magazine is independent of TMT from the standpoint of the database, so people are subscribed to that, aren't necessarily all of our clients. So when I say we poll our clients, we get different data than we do that for MSP Success Magazine, but the average annual MRR from the people who took this poll was 98,000. So that's like 1.1 in ARR. The average number of MRR clients was 67. Average client MRR was 1,463 per month. Average per device was $80. Average per seat, 107, and average per server, 270. Most people do a per seat and per server type pricing. So this is just what we're seeing. Now, here's what I would tell you. We asked True Methods what their average is. This is something that they measure with their members. Their average member is charging $143 per seat. That's like, so right now, guys, and this is average. This is New York City and Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and everywhere in between. And if you're not somewhere in that range, you have to understand you're underpriced. And based on the cost of labor and tools today, the cost of everything, we are suggesting, I say we, I'm talking about all my experts in residence like Jeff Farr, Paul Sissel, Will Nobles, myself. We are recommending that you're somewhere in the $150, $175 seat price. Again, I know that strikes fear into a lot of people, and I know some of you are going to say, well, but Robin, you understand, I'm in a small town, people won't pay those fees, but I'm telling you right now, there's people that are getting more. Now, per seat price, you know, there's a lot of stupidity out there online saying, oh, we charge $300 per seat, you know. And the thing you got to understand, it's not about the per seat. It really is about gross margin and profitability. You know, so someone could be charging $300 a seat and be losing money, and somebody could be charging $120 and making more margin. So I understand that, but I'm giving you this so as you go out into the marketplace and you are sitting across from a prospect, and you can tell them, look, the average recommended per seat price is $150 to $175. That's the average. So if you are below that, just know that you are not overcharging your clients, and this is a data point you should bring forward into your sales meetings, talking to your clients, just so you know, on average. The average MRR for our clients, now this is specific to our clients, the average MRR was $2,281 per client. That's up 21% from 2021, and the average size of the MSP that took that survey was 2.7 million, okay? So is this giving you some good data points to go with to kind of give you, I know it helps. Like everybody's situation is a little different, but this kind of helps you to understand where you are. Now, here's what we see. Ever since COVID hit, prices went up, things went crazy, but the old way many MSPs are still packaging and pricing is really hurting them. And this may be some of the things that you guys are doing you're going to have to change. One is their package includes only labor, RMM tool, and an AV, and that's it. And everything else is either an upcharge, a nickel and diming the client, or you're struggling to sell it where you don't include money. So, you know, here's another thing, and Producers Club members, Accelerate, all my members, we're going to start talking to you about this. One of the things you want to think about when you are selling a managed services deal, when you are bringing on a new client, you don't want to just say, okay, it's going to be $140 a seat, $270 a server, we're good to go. One of the things you want to do is make sure that you are setting expectations of a budget. How many of you, I'm just curious, how many of you, when you onboard a new client, you have set forth a 12-month budget, and you're saying to them, here's the thing, so here's what we're going to charge you per seat, but here's all the projects we're going to get you from here to here. And how many of you are doing that? Okay? So some of you are doing it, a lot of you aren't. Now here's what I'll tell you. As you go upstream to the larger clients, they're going to want that. The other thing, one of the things I learned, we spent a day with Robert Hershevek, which he's going to be here later, but we spent a day with him, and he was saying one of the major changes they made to the sales process that made clients happier, that did away with a lot of the unhappiness and the disdain and problems with clients, is they started, when they onboard a client, they put together a budget and a roadmap from day one. And they say, okay, here's where you are today. We gotta update these things. Here's the things that we knew, and they're all projects, and they map it out for 12 months. They put together a budget, and they say, look, we don't expect you to pay for this all up front, so we're gonna stage it out in quarterly budgets, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do this. And what that does, clients like it, but what it helps prevent, it prevents clients from, when you go back with a QBR and you say, okay, well, we need to do this upgrade, or we need to add this cyber protection, or whatever it is that they need. They're not going, well, hang on a second. I thought what you sold me was everything I needed. What is this that you're selling me, right? So Robert said this was a big problem, and this is how they solved it. They have a roadmap, they have a budget, and when they onboard clients, that's one of the things you do. So that might be something you think about. Another thing is a lot of MSPs are just not offering advanced cyber and compliance services, and a lot of companies now need this just to be competitive. You know, from insurance companies now requiring it to Department of Defense, anybody touching Department of Defense, or just bigger companies saying, you know, I want to make sure I don't get ransomed by, you know, association with you. Clearly defined scope of work. So you got to have hard edges on your projects because it kills your profits. Scope creep. The other thing, every client have a different contract. I would recommend, a lot of you have heard me say this, but and Will Nobles was the one who started doing this, and it works out great, is every year put a year on the package that you put together, put a year on it. So you got 2023, anybody you sell on the 2023, then when you go to 2024, 25, you go back to clients, you say, well, you're on the 2023 package, we got to upgrade you to the new one, right? So you want to make sure clients are on as standard of package as possible. Many are still offering break fixes and ongoing means of support, and a lot of you are still dragging forward old, unprofitable contracts. You know who you are. How many of you are doing that? Be honest. How many of you got that pet client, you kind of like them, they've been around forever, right? You feel bad, you don't want to look at y'all looking at each other with the shit-eating grin. You know who you are, right? Now, I know which, I feel you. I mean, you know, you have these clients and you like them and you feel bad and it's a little mom and pop and, you know, I feel bad. But those things are really hitting your margins now. And so it's something you got to think about, where you got to start raising them up a little bit. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about marketing trends. Now, by the way, all these slides, everything is going to be available for you to download up on the virtual, right? So you can go back and look at this. But Paul Sissel, Growth Caddy, Paul also runs the service leadership groups. Paul recommends best-in-class MSPs. Best-in-class MSPs are doing 20% EBITDA. They're growing 20, 30% more. They're operationally mature. For every dollar of sales expense, you should generate $7.50 in gross margin. For every dollar of marketing, you should generate $25 in gross margin because marketing rules, okay? Sales rule. Anyway, yeah, or whatever. Best-in-class MSPs spend an average of 7% on gross revenue on marketing, and 11 to 12% of top line should be spent on sales and marketing combined. That is everything in your spend. That is the CRM, that is your SDRs who book appointments, that's your sales team, your sales commission. Now, again, these are These are just some numbers. Now, if you are wanting to do aggressive growth, growth eats cash. And you might need to spend more than 7% depending on your goals. So you guys have heard of the rule of 40, maybe? So basically the rule of 40 is you look at your bottom line and you look at your top line. So this is why you'll see, for example, certain companies have zero profits, but they're growing at 40%. And as long as your top line growth and your bottom line EBITDA, when added together, equal 40, you're considered a darling of the investor world. All right, so if you're doing 40% net, but you're not growing, that's great. But if you want to grow, let's say you're growing at 30%, but you're only putting 10% to the bottom line, you're still considered doing pretty well, all right? So saying 7% gross revenue on sales and marketing and 11, 12% sales and marketing combined, that may be more than you're spending, and maybe you need to beef it up, or maybe you're spending more on it, more than that, and if you're growing, then it's part of your plan is worth it. All right, best-in-class MSPs secure 1.2 new clients a month, and they churn 0.9. Now, this is coming from Paul Sissel, again, Growth Caddy. Part of this is, one thing I will tell you is operationally mature, best-in-class MSPs are really good at letting go of the unprofitable clients. They're very, very good at saying, you know what, this person's not a fit, this person's not right, they're not afraid of raising the prices, and sometimes that creates churn. All right, and I think a lot of smaller MSPs have a harder time with that. I think they have a harder time of letting go of certain clients. They have a harder time saying no. So best in class, that's what you're getting. Full-time, if you have a full-time outside salesperson, a hunter, on average, you can expect them to bring you 6 new clients a year. That's the minimum. So if you're getting an outside salesperson and you think they're going to bring you 20, probably not going to happen. Now, again, I think these are just some numbers. I mean, you could do double that, you could do more, but I'm just saying this is what best-in-class MSPs look at when they're growing. Now, from our TMT members, now this is specific for us. This is what we measure, and this is what we gather from accelerators and producers club members reporting their numbers, okay? The average revenue below, the average is 2.7 for our members. That's the average. The average raw leads in 2022 over 2020 was down 65%. Raw leads, down. The average qualified leads they got 75 qualified leads, MQLs, and that was, again, down 39%. First-time appointments was down, usually 38 first-time appointments is the average for our accelerators and producers club. That was down 24%, and the average new clients closed was 13 new clients, and that was down 5%. Now, this tells me a couple things, and I think the first thing that tells me is that you are getting better at closing the good leads, right? Because even though raw leads was down 65, qualified leads down 39, you're still closing nearly the same amount, just a little bit more. The average MRR was also up 2281, which again was up 21%. All right, now what I think, when I look at this, I think what happened, maybe you guys can tell me if you have a different opinion, I think what happened is there's still this groundswell of opportunity from COVID. And I hear from a lot of clients who are just saying, you know what, I'm buried with work, with existing clients, with projects and upgrades, and I think marketing kind of fell off a little bit because when you're super busy and you're short-staffed and you can't breathe because you're being crushed by work, marketing tends to fall off, all right? That doesn't mean there's not more opportunity. That means there's tons of opportunity. When we did another poll, though, now this is MSP Success Magazine. This is not just our clients. I want to be very clear. The average MSP that replied to this poll, and I think there were about 1,000 MSPs that replied to this poll, 41% added less than 5 new clients last year. 32% added 6 to 10. So 73% did less than 1 new client a month. And when we asked them what marketing activities were you working on, or what brought those clients in, referrals, networking, 76%. Upselling, cross-selling, 54%, inbound website leads, 30%, drip marketing, direct mail, 12% said paid digital advertising, and 5% seminars and speaking engagements. Now, again, what this tells me is that last year there was a lot of business just coming in. Would everyone agree with that? Would everyone, like, let me see a show of hands. How many of you just barely kept up with the business coming in? Not that many? Really? Okay, because sales are up, MRR's up, profitability's up, but leads are down. Okay, now we said, what do you think is going to bring you the new business in 2023? And what was interesting, referrals was still at the top but not number one. Drip marketing, which is like our prospect hopper, more people are starting to implement that and seeing that the long-term follow-up really does deliver. 40% was upselling, cross-selling, 38% direct mail, 28% outbound calls, inbound web leads, digital advertising, and seminars, okay? So this is what I'm telling you. This is what people are saying are bringing them the most new opportunities in our poll, which is also interesting because outbound calls and direct mail even beating paid digital advertising, okay?